All eyes on the way I vibe when I walk into the room. Wind blows underneath the soles of my brand new pair of shoes.
All right. Welcome to the LinkedIn Live of the Cold Calling podcast, where we make live cold calls. I brought my man Shawn Sease on today. Shawn, give folks a little bit of background on who you are and what you do and why you're going to be coaching me today while I make cold calls.
Hi, everybody. I've got 30 years of sales experience, and I'm currently on the journey of helping sales leaders turn their reps into the next best version of themselves by sharing everything that I've learned and then testing new ideas that are probably going to fall on their face and not work, but it'll help us all become the next best version of ourselves. Keep the bio simple. That's it.
How many cold calls do you think you have made in your career?
I don't know. I quit counting, but I think that probably the most significant stat that I could say that there was probably for a pretty good stretch there for a few years in a row. I was probably responsible for somewhere between 600 to 1,000 dials a day, every single day. Using a technology like Monster Connect, a parallel assisted dialing or human assisted dialing technology. So I don't know if the unit's measurable by millions. It's certainly hundreds of thousands or something like that. But something like that. Probably the most significant and most exciting part about that is that for a few years there, I was involved with having the better part of 30 to 50 conversations a day, and that's when I got really good at it. That's when I got really good at it, having that many conversations per day.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a challenge for a lot of folks of not getting that many at-bats consistently, right? To actually get better at the craft of cold calling.
Yeah, I actually have, there's somebody out there, Robert Kellner, who I worked with for a while. We hired him when we were working at the Sales Developers, doing a lot of third-party outbound for a lot of different companies. And there's an interesting experience that he had. We had a client that it was an architect. They were architects, and they were willing to take meetings, and we figured out how they were and why they would take meetings. And we put him in a situation where he was having 30 to 40 conversations a day with these people, and his conversation to meeting rate was about 33%.
Wow.
So he was booking 8 to 12 meetings a day. And I'll tell you, there's something to be said about that. And I talked to him about this recently, probably sometime during last year, because it dawned on me that might have been the pinnacle moment for him. And I asked him, I said, hey, being in the situation where you were working for a client where you could actually have a lot of positive outcomes, do you think that turned you into a really good cold caller? And his answer was unequivocally, without any doubt whatsoever, that having the door slammed in your face it's hard on your psyche and your person. It's hard on you. It's demoralizing and it's hard. So what I took away from that was, again, what we were talking about before we started this, is that if you can create the conditions for your reps to have successful outcomes, and that means like tuning down what the ask is in a first call, you can actually turn them into better cold callers because the experience is positive for them.
Yeah. Nobody does their best work when they hate their job.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to get clicked in here. I'm going to be calling sales leaders today that do outbound. And, thanks everybody who's joining us. If you want to hear the other side of these conversations and some of the best moments from these lives, go ahead and check out the Cold Calling podcast on every podcast platform out there, brought to you by Monster Connect. I'm going to go ahead and get clicked in here. I'm going to be calling sales leaders today that do outbound, that do cold calling, and on behalf of Monster Connect. And Shawn's going to be coaching me along the way here. Ronen, thanks for joining us. Yeah, hit us in the comments. Feel free to jump on the phone and make some calls with us, or ask any questions. And we have, our expert here, Shawn, that can tackle any questions that anybody might have. All right. Right. Let me just get clicked in here. All right, we're rolling. Shawn, what would you say some of the biggest struggles are that people that are, say newer to cold calling typically have, and how do you tackle those?
I think probably one of the biggest problems that people have is probably trying to get to the next step in their script and the next place in their script, trying to rush a phone call because uh, coaching and training doesn't spend enough time actually taking the deep dive into listening and why it's so important. And I don't think that you could express this enough that in the very beginning, you and I have talked about this a bunch of times, right? When you are actually trying to use the data, when people say, "Hey, data is the new oil, it's the new gold,"
Yeah.
and so on, a lot of people, it seems to me, have a tough time. It's easy to say that the data is the new oil. It's a whole other thing to actually use it to move the needle, to make it worth something. And what I mean by that is a very simple example, is that we proved that um, in the very beginning of a conversation that if somebody is telling you that now is not a good time, or for whatever reason, it might be true, it might be fear, it might be whatever, that if you actually acknowledge that and ask them for a better time to call them back, whether it's this afternoon, I mean, deliberately this afternoon or tomorrow morning, one of two things will happen. They'll say, yeah, sure, do that. Or they'll say, well, you got me now, so let's, go ahead and continue. um, we proved that the people who said, give me a call back this afternoon or tomorrow, that if you reminded them about that, like you actually told them that you continue to just build the two-way bridge to have a conversation when you call back in the afternoon or tomorrow and say, hey, Colin, Shawn calling you back again from Humantic. And, you probably remember I called you yesterday, maybe not, call didn't last that long, but you were kind enough to let me know that I could not have caught you at a worse time. You told me that right now was a better time. Did I catch you at a better time? Again, the whole idea there is that in the original call, we were paying attention to what the other person was saying to us, and we were trained to use that to our advantage to build the two-way communication. Because if we're not having a two-way dialogue, if you haven't relaxed and said, sure, what do you got, Shawn? What are we talking about? We're not having a conversation. So it makes no sense whatsoever to try to get to the next part of my script, which
Hey,
traditionally,
Adrian, this is Colin over at Monster Connect. Actually, my first time giving you a call here. Did I catch you at a good time? Do you have half a minute? He hung up. We're going to call him back.
yeah. But I was saying that traditionally people will steamroll right over the top of people when they'll actually say, hey,
Hey,
listen,
Adrian, this is Colin at Monster Connect. I lost you there. Ooh, all right. So, not interested without a good reason, but he got a little pissy there. So, that happens. What feedback? So, something I like that I actually learned from you, Shawn, in sort of script frameworks is, and I actually like it. A lot of people have a hard time with this one. I know I did. Initially is asking for that meeting right away, like in the beginning of the call, which you're not really trying to get a meeting, but it goes back to exactly what you're saying. You're trying to get them to, you're trying to catch their attention so they're actually lean into having a conversation rather than just giving you the, hey, not interested, typical response that you're going to get. Do
yeah. Well, and
you
I
want to
think,
explain?
yeah, I can definitely explain that. That goes back to starting the two-way conversation part, and we get a lot of resistance to that because people will say, "Hey, you can't just come out and tell people that you were
Yeah.
calling to." You're like, "Well, no, let's back up again." This goes back to listening, right? When you're trying to develop the framework with someone, you say, "The objective, my objective here is to start a two-way conversation, not get the meeting." I'm trying to, in I started to call that, elicit prescribed responses. Get people to actually respond, in a way that's predictable. And in my cold calls, my opening has kind of evolved to a lot like how you did. Hey, this is Shawn calling from, Monster Connect,
Hey,
and
Christian, this is Colin over at Monster Connect. This is actually my first time giving you a call. This is a cold call, but do you have half a minute and I can tell you exactly why I'm reaching out today? Yeah, I mean, sounds like I probably caught you at a bad time. I can definitely try back at a better time. Would Yeah, so I definitely going to take a little bit more than 10 seconds. So I'm happy to try you back at a better time. So I'd love to get your take on that, and I think this is what Ronan was kind of hinting to, right? When people are like, "Yeah, yeah, I only have 10 seconds. Hurry up! Like, what do you got?" Right? I typically like to bail because it's just like I feel like they're in that zone of resistance, and it doesn't matter what you say; they're just going to say not interested. But maybe you have a different take. I know Ronan feels a little bit different about it, but when people say, "Yeah, I'm actually in a meeting," or "Yeah, hey, you have 10 seconds, go." Um, what? How do you typically handle those
Well,
situations?
my experience is what I was sharing with you earlier when they come back and say it sounds like I've caught you at a horrible time. I got an knack for doing that. And the people usually fork right there. They'll say, "Yeah, that's right." And then you pick another time to call back, or they'll say, "Well, you've actually got me right now," or they say, "Hey, you got 10 or 15 seconds." I would probably dive in a little bit, but I'd be very, very careful. I'd be very, very careful to be able to hook them a little bit. I'm on the side of trying to schedule a time to call them back again because I want to call and use my voice and emotion and so on to try to actually connect with them. Um, but I'm going to do the same thing anyways. Like the people who are hanging up on me, because that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to forget that they hung up on me, or if I'm sometimes me and my attitude on both, sometimes I'll put a teleprompter note in there that says, uh, I'll actually write in there what I'm going to say when they answer the phone next time. And it could say, "Hey, Colin, I called you the other day and I don't think I could have picked a worse time because you hung up on me." And
Yeah.
and again, it just depends on how I feel, which some people say, "Well, that's not a process." You're all, "Well, what are you going to do? I'm the one making the calls, and that's that." I tend to think, well, not think. My experience is that most people will tell you exactly how to proceed. The issue that I have with myself personally sometimes is the mood I'm in, and I take that to heart because sometimes, if I'm in the mood for it and I'm jacked up to make cold calls, they're going to go great, you know. But if it's a day where I'm not into it or whatever,
Mm,
I'm going to let a lot of stuff go, and I'm not going to bring my best foot forward. And I think that anyone who says that they do something other than that is ridiculous because it's impossible to. Well, I shouldn't say that. I can't speak for everybody, but I'm as optimistic as it gets, and some days I'm not into it, and if I had to do it, I would do it, and I'd go through the motions, and that's that, you know.
yeah. I mean, I think mood, attitude, and mindset are a huge component of how, successful you're going to be. It goes back to, kind of the story you were saying there is, um, if you're getting a lot of conversations, you're getting more at bats, it's going to be more enjoyable, right? But if you're just getting voicemail after voicemail and dialing 200 times and only talking to one or two people that are hanging up on you, it's going to be hard to stay positive during your call box and be excited to make cold calls, right?
Yeah, and I'd say since we were citing Ronan here, and he's actually was in the chat here. I think that probably of the handfuls of different people that share how to advice on LinkedIn, that he probably has one of the most polished, perfect approaches for cold calling. And what I love about his framework is that he actually, when the planets line up for him, his script is perfect. And what I mean by that is that he gets the permission. He uses a permission-based opening to get going, and then he has three questions that he asks, and one builds on the other one. One's a straight up like,
Hey, Ajit, this is Colin over at Monster Connect. This is actually my first time giving you a call here. Do you have half a minute so I can tell you exactly why I'm reaching out to you today? Yeah, I'm actually calling to introduce my company when I'm not calling you out of the blue like I am today. Would you be available like Tuesday or Thursday next week, 9 a.m. your time? Yeah, I definitely want to make sure it's relevant. Calling from Monster Connect. Have you ever heard of us before? Got it. All right. Well, I didn't expect that to be the case. But I was doing a bit of research and saw that your company has a sales team. Looks like you guys are doing outbound prospecting, maybe even cold calling. Is that true? Yeah. So I was just curious, when your reps are making calls, do you know how many conversations they typically have? Like, what's their dial to connect ratio? Got it. Okay. And so that's just like a, kind of power dialer or click to call type of setup, maybe integrated in your CRM, I'd imagine. Got it. Well, I mean, with a lot of sales leaders looking to do more with less these days, just based on things are going, if I could show you a way to, make your reps 8 to 10 times more productive, is that something you'd be worth spending 15, 20 minutes together in the next week or two? Yeah. Any particular reason why? Yes. So if your reps could have more conversations, 8 to 10 times more conversations. All right, got to hang up there.
Was he
Got
saying
pretty
that?
far, and then he said he wasn't interested, and he just bailed. He had a really low. I mean, I'm calling sales leaders, so these are mostly dominant, like high D dominant type people. Usually a little bit more high energy. He had like a really low energy. Um, got into the conversation, and then he just bailed on me. Nope, not interested, and hung up.
Yeah. Well, I think that goes again. That goes back to the data, right? That the we know that the average length of a cold call is somewhere between 1 minute and 8 seconds and 1.5 minutes, and of course, the ones that go on to be 3 or 4 or 5 minutes are usually a result of somebody way early in the call, pretty much being curious enough to book a meeting, and the rest of that 2 or 3 minutes are the logistics of setting up that meeting. And that's what I was sharing about how Ronen does his call, is that he actually walks people up a ladder. Like once he gets the permission, to carry on,
Yeah.
he asks a very innocuous kind of qualifying or information gathering question. I mean, it sound I don't I wish that he could do it, because I don't want to take away. I've only heard it 2 or 3 times because he shares it on LinkedIn, and he has the prompts and stuff. But it's asking, I'm sure you guys have a technology like this in place. Like, I'm not here to tell you that you're stupid. I'm sure I already know you have something like this, for your tickets and your success stuff. Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that it probably does something like this. And it's a second question that gets a little bit deeper that he could probably fork off depending on the response when he's listening. But
Yeah.
the third one is the clencher, is the real benefit. It's the benefit of their technology, which is, how do you know who's urgent? How do you know
How do you
who's
know
really,
who's the most pissed
yeah,
off
who's
before they're
really
pissed off?
pissed?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do and they're like, well, interesting. Well,
I
great.
don't.
That was the reason for my call, and so let's find a time and we can dig into that. And then he takes off and might talk a little bit more about it, but gets to booking the meeting, so that now he's created the curiosity for somebody to want to learn more. But this was an ambush call, so let's schedule the time to dig into that a little bit more. And he still stays on the benefit side, doesn't get into the features of it. But the point is that it's like the three-tier thing. He walks people up, like, yeah, we do that for sure. Now he's getting the two-way conversation. Well, how about this? And then finally it's like, because he knows that all the other solutions don't do this, so he asks them, and people go, they think to themselves, and you can hear it in their voice in the calls that he shares, that they say, I don't know. Well, maybe. I don't know. I think so. And he's got that curiosity. People are like, sure, why wouldn't I want to take some time with you and see what we can shake out of the trees. And again, there's a framework there, right?
Yeah.
In taking it back to the simplicity, back to the data. There's all this research has been done about how much you can get away with. And there's a paper that I share. I talk about it all the time in podcasts, where there's a paper called "When Three is a Charm and Four is an Alarm." That is, if you have 3 divisions of proof or 3 bullet points that are very compelling, but let's say you have more, 4, 5, 6, 7 that are really important, The minute that you go to the fourth one, the credibility of the first three start to erode. And so that's just another thing. Like, don't put forth more than three things. And again, going back to the trust building concept early in phone calls and things like that for the third party outbound work that we do, we're always trying to deliver value for our clients, which would be part of that would be, knowing your ICP better, knowing your market better. What are the priorities of your market? What are they thinking about? What's going on with them? And so, and this goes back to the hiring component and having reps that are not super mature or experienced. That if you can call up people out of the blue, and again, going back to the minute and 8 seconds, minute and a half thing, and say to people, hey, I'm calling from this company, and we're actually doing a little bit of research. We're actually calling the top 200 growth companies in this particular industry. Congratulations, you made the list. And we're asking 3 simple questions. It takes less than a minute, and I'll get you back to doing what you're doing. Are you ready?
Yeah, and see, Ronen's got his 3-question framework here.
Yeah.
3 questions to get there. 1 question around the current. Hey, Christine. This is Collin over at Monster Connect. This is actually my first time giving you a call. Do you have like half a minute, and I can tell you exactly why I'm reaching out today? I'm guessing you've heard that. I'm guessing you've heard that one before, right? Yeah. So I'm really just calling to introduce a company, Monster Connect, when I'm not calling you out of the blue. Have you ever heard of Monster Connect before? Got it. So we are a parallel assisted dialer. So we help your reps be 8 to 10 times more productive and have more conversations. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Yeah. What went wrong? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, um, based on all this, thanks for all this information. Based on everything you gave me here, I mean, I think where this something like this makes sense, right? Based on what you've said, is when you're at a place and you're maybe looking to grow the team, right, from 5 SDRs to more. This is an alternative, right, to making the people that you have more productive versus spending on more human capital. Yeah. Yeah. So why don't we send you some information and then check back in Q2? How does that sound? Okay. Awesome. Thanks for the transparency and all the information. Super helpful. All right. Take care. Bye-bye. So not a bad call. Good follow up there. She gave you a ton of good information on their current state, and she kind of chuckled on the opener because she's an SDR manager. So uh, she's probably heard that opening line many times, may even use it herself. But so it's a good follow up for Q2. Any feedback, Shawn? You're supposed to be my coach here today. What do you got for me?
I'm actually grabbing something here real quick. um, that I would like to hear something a little bit more nebulous. It would somebody lean into that would make somebody lean into what you're what you're doing, because it seems like the moment that you go into, if you said something like parallel assisted dialing, or you start you're talking about how it
Yeah.
works, the features of
I,
it's and so on, as opposed to, when somebody said, when you say, hey, I'm calling from Monster Connect, are you familiar with our company at all? No, I haven't heard of you. Well, great. That was the reason for my call, to get some time on your calendar. How about next in with these high D people? Um, the way that I would phrase that third question about just asking them for the time on the calendar, to prompt them
yeah.
to say, well, before we do that, what is this about? That
Yeah.
I would be saying, I would be giving them an option, and this is just a little weird thing that I do. I'd say, hey, I was calling to get some time on your calendar so that I could introduce my company. How would this Friday at 3 o'clock work? Or if that's too pressing, are we out into the following week? Do you have your calendar handy? So that if they would actually take the meeting, then you can say, well, before we do that, let me see if this is relevant. Monster Connect. We've pretty much, when they say, well, what is this about? We say, well, we've pretty much figured out how to help sales leaders completely eliminate the waste and frustration that prevents really good sales reps from using the phone effectively, or in the worst case, not using the phone at all.
Yeah.
And basically, so they go, well, tell me more about that. Well, you know, Monster Connects helps reps like me. I'm actually a sales leader. Helps me connect with more people than you. And when I want to use the phone, or I'm in between meetings, I want to press go and start having as many conversations in the small amount of time I have to do prospecting. Because let's face it, nobody likes it. We've figured out how to completely get rid of all of the waste and frustration that's preventing your reps from even wanting to use the phone for prospecting, because it's so annoying. And again,
Hey, Steven, this is Collin over at Monster Connect. This is actually my first time giving you a call here. Do you have a half a minute so I can tell you exactly why I'm reaching out today? Sure, no problem. All right. So,
nobody has time today.
no. Yeah, no. See, in that one, that's, I think that last call, right? Which we're kind of breaking down. I kind of went off script a little bit just based on what I was getting from her, right?
Yeah.
When I started asking her some, hey Zach, this is Collin with Monster Connect. This is actually my first time giving you a call. Do you have half a minute so I can tell you exactly why I'm reaching out? Yeah. Reason I'm reaching out is really just to introduce my company when I'm not calling you out of the blue. Have you heard of Monster Connect before? Got it. Well, I know I'm calling you out of the blue. It sounds like maybe you're in the car. Would you be available like next week, Tuesday or Thursday around 9 a.m. your time for a quick chat? Yeah. 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 Let me just I could schedule a call back for maybe like 3 weeks. How's that work? Got it. You got it. All right. Thanks for your time, Zach. See ya. So he's in between jobs. Not a lot I can do there, but sounds like he's got something else lined up, and there's some interest. So he said to give him a call back in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Going back to that last call, right? So I kind of sort of went off script a bit based on what I was getting from her, right? And so when I kind of went into the whole sort of short pitch there, she said, what are you, what are you similar to, right? What is, and so she had already used something like Monster Connect in the past, and she gave me some very specific goals that they're focused on right now, and so that's the also a part of it is being prepared to sort of go off script a little bit here and there. But I like the idea. I'm going to take some of this feedback and bring it into the next call.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I was taking a close look at with my clients,
Hey,
just
Michael, this is Collin with Monster Connect. This is actually my first time giving you a call here. Do you have half a minute so I can tell you exactly why I'm reaching out? Yeah, I know I'm calling you out of the blue here, so I'm really just calling to introduce my company, Monster Connect, when I'm not calling you out of the blue like today. Would you be available, like, say, Monday next week around 9 a.m. your time? Or if that's too soon, maybe the following week? Yeah, I definitely want to make sure it's relevant. And it looks like you have a sales team and you guys do outbound prospecting. Is that right? Got it. And is cold calling part of your strategy? Got it. Yeah. So what we've done is we figured out a way to help sales leaders completely eliminate the waste and frustration that really prevents good reps from using the phone effectively, or in some cases, not at all. So we have the ability to make your reps 8 to 10 times more productive and have more conversations. Do you know what your current like dial to connect ratio is when your reps are making calls? Yeah. 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 How long have you guys been using that for? Yeah. And would you be open to testing something that's similar? Got it. Yeah, got it. Okay, well, definitely sounds like it wouldn't be relevant. Thanks for your time, Michael. All right, see ya. All
what
right.
were they using?
They're using something similar already, so and they signed a 1 year contract, so not relevant at the moment. But
Timing, yeah.
yeah, but I like your line there. I feel like it transitioned into the conversation a bit better.
Yeah, I think then the follow ups to that. This is what I was starting to say before that call came on. Is priorities, right? I have my mind's all wrapped around priorities, but that's because that's one of the ways that we do outbound is that we start with first calls as we call to gather a little bit of info, like ask these 3 questions and then get out of people's hair, maybe ask them for a meeting or whatever. We call them back a week later and reference the first call and then try to get a meeting that way. And again,
Yeah,
our goal is to bridge rapport and trust and so on, as opposed to shooting ourselves in the foot out of the gate. Why? Again, the data, right? Like we've been looking at different data sets from different companies. There's some, I've worked with enough different dialing technology and so on that behind the scenes people will share data with me, and I've seen one thing that appears over and over, and that is that pipeline attribution to first time calls is frequently 2x all the way up to 12x lower than downstream attribution of people that come inbound. So let me say that in another way.
yeah.
That when we make calls and we disposition and we get a meeting, we disposition the call, we can actually attribute the pipeline to that call because
Hey, Michael, this is Colin over at Monster Connect. This is actually my first time giving you a call here. Do you have half a minute and I can tell you exactly why I decided to call you today? Yeah. So reason I'm calling you is to really introduce my company, Monster Connect, when I'm not calling you out of the blue like I am today. Or would you be available like Monday, 9 a.m. your time, or if that's too soon, maybe the following week? Yeah. Have you ever heard of us before? Yeah, I was doing a bit of research. Looks like you're head of sales there, and it looks like you guys do outbound prospecting. Is that correct? Sure, no problem. Yeah, yeah. It looks like you guys do outbound prospecting. Maybe is cold calling part of your strategy? Got it. Okay. And so definitely want to make sure that this is relevant. And what we've done is, we've figured out a way to help sales leaders completely eliminate waste and frustration that really prevents their good reps from using the phone effectively, or even worse, not at all. Um, when you guys are making cold calls today, do you know what your average dial to connect ratio is, or what's the current setup? Got it. Okay. And so will they be using the phone more in the new year, or would you like them to be using the phone more coming into the new year? Yeah, so we help, your already trained reps be 8 to 10 times more productive using our technology. To have 8 to 10 times more conversations than what they're used to having. How many reps do you have that use the phone today? Got it. Okay. And the 3 reps that you have, is phone part of their strategy? Okay. Um, I mean, would it be worth putting 20 minutes on the calendar in the next week or 2 to show you how we could make your reps that use the phone and also help with ramp time of your new hires, with what we got going on here? Sure. I mean, I can definitely send you over some information, and then maybe give you a call back after that. Is there anything specific that I could send you in the email that you'd love to see? Yeah. Okay. Do you want to tentatively put something on the calendar so I don't have to call you out of the blue again, towards end of the month, and then if for some reason that doesn't work, we can always change it if we need an extra week or so. Okay, great. Let me just week of the 23rd. Yeah. How about like the 24th, around 8 a.m. your time? Yeah, a little bit earlier. 9. Okay. So, all right. So I'm going to send you an invite for 124 at 9 a.m. your time and your central time, right? Okay. Got it. What's the best email for you? Okay. Got it. I'll get that sent out. Thanks for your time, Mike. Yeah. My name's Collin. All right. Take care.
There we go. Or at least systematically getting closer and having better conversations. I think with this, even Ronan's model is a good one here because you could keep the conversation flowing because people are letting you say, "Hey, what you do," and you could see that again the statement about eliminating the waste and frustration that prevents reps from using the phone, uh, effectively. And again, those are key words, right? Like com-
Yeah.
completely eliminate the waste and frustration that's preventing, like your really good sales reps from using the phone effectively, or in the worst case, not at all. I would imagine that you've got some kind of technology, or you guys use the phone now for making calls, right? Just to get that qualifier there. Um, and to continue and say, because you're asking them about their dial to connect, which
Yeah.
I think sometimes you might be risking either a couple of things, right? Scaring someone or someone embarrassed or they don't know
Yeah.
or whatever, and they go da da da. So if you say, we eliminate the waste and frustration that prevents them from using the phone or not at all. Most of the people I call have a technology in place. They're using something for the phones already. You guys, I'm sure you guys have something that you use. Yeah. So, and then from there, I think from there, again, we do a really good job if we plan this out really well. You skip to a totally different topic, like, is call coaching part of the work that you're doing with the phone? Call coaching, because call coaching goes to whether or not you're having conversations. You can't
Right.
coach if you're not having conversations, right? You're like, yeah, of course we do. Well, great. That's perfect. Let me ask you one more question. The calling technology that you're using today, does it blend cold calls together with follow-ups with referrals in one session? Does it do call blending like that at all, or list blending for you like that at all? Just like Ronen's third thing, like, how do you do this? And they're like, well, what do you mean list blending? Well, when it comes to dial to connect.
Hey, Andrew, this is Collin over at Monster Connect. This is actually my first time giving you a call. Do you have half a minute so I can tell you exactly why I called you today? Nope.
Nope, I don't have half a minute. Who's
Got
the
it. No
first?
problem. What,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Happy to put something on the calendar when you get back. All right. He was on vacation. Didn't want to talk.
Yeah. So before I lose my train of thought there, the third piece is, do you have the list blending? Because the list blending leads to a higher dial to connect, right? When you first start out with a cold list, it's cold. Your dial to connect is 2, 4, or 5%. The minute you start getting referrals and callbacks, every single day you start layering
Hey,
those in.
Lewis, this is Collin over at Monster Connect. This is actually my first time giving you a call here. Do you have like half a minute and I can tell you exactly why I decided to call you today? All right, we're going to double tap that one.
Here we come. Here we go.
Oh, voicemail.
She
Voicemail.
knows. She's smarter than you.
She's been double tapped before.
Yeah.
So the third question there is the one where you kind of want to stump them a little bit without
Yeah, we were
making them
saying
feel dumb.
yeah, because as you're walking them down the ladder, you've asked them, or you admit, like, everyone I talk to has something. So you're not, and again, that goes back to another theory of don't objection handle, just objection awareness. Like, put it out there. I know everyone I talk to, if they're using the phone, has some kind of technology to help improve. What are you currently using? Great, yeah, I knew it. I knew
Hey,
it.
Dennis, this is Colin over at Monster Connect. This is actually my first time giving you a call here. Do you have half a minute and I can tell you exactly why I decided to give you a call today? Yeah, I'm really just calling to introduce my company when I'm not calling you out of the blue. Have you ever heard of Monster Connect before? Yeah, well, I know I'm calling you out of the blue here, so just wanted to see if you'd be open for a quick chat, maybe Monday next week around 9 a.m. your time, or if that's too soon, maybe the following week. Yeah, I definitely want to make sure it's relevant. What we've been able to do is we figured out a way, to help sales leaders completely eliminate the waste and frustration that prevents really good sales reps from using the phone effectively, or even worse, not at all. I was doing a bit of research. Looks like guys do outbound prospecting there, maybe even cold calling. Is that right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, Got it. Okay. Well, and just curious, do your reps use the phone? Is like, outbound calling part of the strategy you guys do over there? Okay, got it. And are you looking for them to be, more productive, more effective on the phone coming into the new year? Got it. Okay. All right. Well, I definitely can give you a call back in a month or so. How about I send you over some information between now and then? And would you be open to putting something, kind of tentatively on the calendar? Yeah, it's a bit far out. So why don't I give you a call back, say like end of month, and then we can kind of revisit there and maybe put something on the calendar. Okay, you got it. All right. Thanks for your time, Dennis. All right. Bye bye. All right. So that one there, it was a little bit tough to get him to lean into a conversation. He just was like, "Hey, sounds interesting, but I've got some really top priority fish to fry here. Like these are priorities, but like I've got some serious stuff I got to handle first." And it didn't sound like he wanted to really talk about it. So, got to follow up, sort of like end of month to then get into a conversation.
I put these three questions together here, and that's why I think on the top of funnel, especially for newer green reps who are just how you're trying to put a process together where they could actually walk the willing through a call, is to go back to the ask for that meeting over and over. The purpose for my call is to get time on your calendar so that we can share with you how this works. It says, well, tell me a little bit more. Tell them a little bit more. Like I said, you tell them a little bit more. And like I said, I was looking, to get some time on the calendar so we actually have the space to talk about this. Do you have your calendar handy? Is it in front of you? And again, just almost, and I would use the word weasel. You could say that because you're trying to get people to say, yeah, well, when works, let's actually do this, as opposed to just trying to force a longer dialogue, because again, the time's ticking and data shows us that we don't. People are going to get tired of it, and I got to get back to doing what I was doing. I already
Yeah.
gave you enough time. I said I would do what I did. We're square. I'm out of here, as opposed to confining people to the point, the reason for the call. This ambush call is not a good place to talk about you wanting to dig in, because I know that as soon as I start talking, you're going to look at your clock and go, oh, you're out of time. I gave you all the time I said I would.
Yeah. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. I know, Shawn, what's your take on tone on cold calls? I know, it's something that people don't talk about enough, but it's a really important piece, how you say it versus what you say.
Yeah, I think tone, pace, pitch, all the way back to trying to invoke emotion. I did that for a while. My board back here, you probably can't see it, but in the corner down there, it says the purpose of a cold call, and then in red it says to ignite emotion. And that goes for both sides. That there's a difference. The reason why some people are so good at cold calling and why they fall ass backwards into meetings or so on is because they can emotionally bring a script to life,
Yeah.
and again, that's some of the things that I've learned to do in my cold calls, and which is that, like in the beginning, like when you say, hey, I'm calling you out of the blue, I have this thing that I say second nature. It's like, hey, you're not expecting my call. It's because it's the first time I've tried to reach you. You got half a minute, and I'll share with you what I'm up to today, why I picked up the phone to give you a call. Like I'm going to share with you what I'm up to. Like make it sound like, I'm doing something you don't want to miss out on, or it's innocuous enough for you to say, I got to hear this, like, what are you up to? What are you doing? And then as soon as they say that, then I come back and say, well, real quick, the purpose for the call was to get time on your calendar so that I can introduce myself. I'm wondering, would this Friday at 3 work, or if that's too pressing, are we out into the following week? Well, why don't you tell me what it's about first? Maybe I will.
Yeah.
Well, great. Have you heard of my company, Monster Connect? Are you familiar with us at all? No, I haven't. Well, perfect. perfect. That's why I called. We've basically uncovered a way that completely eliminates the waste and frustration that's preventing your very best reps probably from using the phone effectively, or in the worst case, your reluctant reps from wanting to use the phone at all. And the reason why I called you today is to get some time on your calendar so that we could share that with you, so you could learn a little bit more how it works. Again, do you have your calendar handy? Well, hold on. Why don't you tell me a little bit more? Well, everybody that I talk to has some kind of technology in place. It's not like I'm calling you with any, brilliant new concept using the phone. What are you guys using now to make outbound calls? Or, oh, we have whatever, phone mirror,
Yeah.
this, that, the ever, whatever. Great. So as part of that, and then sweet, as part of that, do you do ongoing coaching, coaching with your reps, like a yes or no? Yeah, of course you do. What daily or weekly or monthly? How do you sprinkle that in? Well, as often as we can, because again, you don't want to scare them off. And well, let me ask you this. That sounds great. Sounds familiar. How about call blending? Really the name of the game is conversations, right? It has nothing to do with how many dials you want. You want your reps having conversations when they're on the phone. Do you have a method, or a strategy, a process that automatically blends your cold calls together with your follow-up calls and your referral calls?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Well, so if somebody hopped on the dialing system and said press go, and depending on who answers the call, let's say the script is already there ready for them based on what the call is. Do you blend calls together to increase your dial to connect? Do you have a way to do that, to improve your
Yeah.
dial to connect? Because it doesn't matter what the dial to connect is. No one's going to argue with wanting to improve it, right? Who cares what it is? It is what it is. And probably if you get somebody to point it out, they're going to be mad because they're going to be embarrassed or don't want to say, what it really is.
Yeah.
Like we suck at cold calling. And
Yeah,
actually, I would like,
you don't want to tell them, hey, what you're doing is wrong. So,
yeah.
all right, guys, we're gonna wrap things up here. Shawn, thanks so much for joining today. Really helped evolve the script, so appreciate that. Today's session by Monster Connect, we were able to make 167 dials. We had 12 conversations, and I was able to book one meeting and schedule a few follow-ups. So definitely appreciate having you on and bringing your expertise to the show today, Shawn. Where's the best place for people to get into your world if they want to connect with you? And then, if you want to hear the other side of these conversations and the best moments, please go check out the Cold Calling podcast on whatever podcast app you listen to podcast on.
Yep. You can find me on LinkedIn, Shawn Sease, or my website, ineveranswer.com. That's our funny little play on people who don't answer the phone. And we've got script workshops over there, data validation, all kinds of things. And I'll just leave you with, to me, this is how fast we should be able to iterate on a script. Like if you're doing call coaching, just sit down like this, and at the end of that session, have made monumental movements towards a process that's repeatable over and over and over. And that's the name of the game, especially at the tip top of the funnel.
Yeah. Yeah. This is how quickly you can iterate and improve the script. And you can see just a few tweaks, how we started getting into some better conversations based on the feedback from you, Shawn. So thank you so much, everybody who joined us. We'll be same time, same place next week. And make sure to check out the Cold Calling podcast.
Cheers, everyone.